I'm considering eloping because my family is pressuring me to agree to let my sister's boyfriend propose to her at my wedding. The situation has me seething with anger and disappointment. My younger sister, who survived cancer as a child, became the favorite child afterward. I was shielded from the severity of her illness growing up, but she emerged as the golden child in our family. Her recovery understandably brought immense relief and joy to my parents, but it also led to her being spoiled, often at my expense. Despite my resentment, I was always told it was wrong to feel jealous of her. Now, 20 years later, my sister still exhibits entitled behavior, though our relationship has improved since our teenage years. Our wedding is scheduled for July, and due to financial constraints, my fiancé and I opted for a small ceremony with around 30 guests at his grandparents' beautiful lakeside home. Initially, my parents offered to pay for a larger wedding at a better venue, and we reluctantly agreed to avoid disappointing them. However, things took a turn when my mother, father, and sister's boyfriend approached me last week. They suggested that my sister's boyfriend propose to her during the wedding, effectively turning it into an engagement party as well. My mother was inspired by Instagram reels of proposals to bridesmaids and thought it would be cute since my sister is my maid of honor. I immediately rejected the idea as absurd and left. My mother was furious, accusing me of selfishness and ingratitude. I confronted her about her favoritism, which only led to her crying and kicking me out of the house. Both my mother and my future brother-in-law later warned me not to spoil their plan to propose to my sister. My fiancé is disappointed, but we feel trapped because my parents have already invested almost $30,000 into the wedding, and canceling now would be too late. Today, my mother called to discuss the proposal plan, but I pleaded with her not to ruin my special day. She insisted that since she was footing the bill, she had the right to make such requests and urged me to let go of my jealousy and resentment toward my sister. It's a heartbreaking situation. On one hand, I want to stand my ground and protect the sanctity of my wedding day. On the other hand, I don't want to upset my parents or jeopardize the relationship with my sister. Elopement seems like the only way to avoid the drama and pressure from my family. But even that decision comes with its own set of challenges and emotional toll. I'm torn and overwhelmed, unsure of what the best course of action is. All I want is a wedding day that's about celebrating love and unity, not about fulfilling someone else's agenda. I find myself caught in a difficult situation, torn between conflicting emotions and considerations. On one hand, I acknowledge that my sister is entirely innocent in this matter, and I don't want to detract from her happiness. However, the prospect of my wedding day being overshadowed by a grand proposal for her troubles me deeply. It feels like my own special day would be eclipsed by someone else's celebration. In discussing the situation with my fiancé, we've contemplated returning to our original plan of having a small wedding at his grandparents' beautiful lakeside home. This option would allow us to maintain the intimacy and simplicity we initially desired for our wedding day. Alternatively, if his grandparents are no longer willing to host the wedding, we've considered the possibility of eloping instead. This decision weighs heavily on me, as it involves not only my own desires but also the expectations and feelings of my family. The thought of informing my family and canceling the wedding altogether has crossed my mind. However, I hesitate to take such drastic action, knowing the disappointment and potential fallout it could cause. On the other hand, allowing them to proceed with their plans for a grand proposal party feels like conceding to their wishes at the expense of my own happiness. It's a challenging dilemma, and I'm still grappling with the best course of action. Reading the advice provided before the updates, I'm inclined to consider the option of proceeding with the wedding at my fiancé's grandparents' house. This suggestion resonates with me because it offers a compromise, allowing my sister and parents to celebrate their joy while also preserving the significance of my wedding day. However, it's essential to ensure that the focus remains balanced and that my fiancé and I are not overshadowed or sidelined in the process. Reflecting on the experiences shared by others, particularly regarding parental favoritism and the impact on sibling relationships, I feel a sense of validation in my own feelings. It's evident that my parents' actions have caused me considerable pain and resentment over the years, and this situation is just another painful reminder of their skewed priorities. I truly empathize with your decision not to extend an invitation to your family for your wedding. This should be a day filled with boundless joy and celebration for you and your fiancé. Yet it's disheartening to see that familial discord has overshadowed what should be a momentous occasion. Amidst the turmoil, I find it commendable that you're navigating this situation with such grace and dignity. It's disheartening to witness some of the comments suggesting methods to inflict maximum emotional distress upon those who've wronged you. Instead of focusing on revenge or retaliation, I urge you to prioritize your own well-being and emotional fulfillment. While I may not have a perfect solution to offer, I wholeheartedly encourage you to make choices that resonate with your values and bring you a sense of peace and contentment. Regarding the delicate dilemma surrounding whether to disclose your sister's boyfriend's proposal plans, I can sense the weight of the decision pressing upon you. On one hand, divulging this information could potentially spoil the surprise, while on the other, keeping silent may lead to confusion and misunderstanding down the line. It's undoubtedly a challenging predicament to navigate, and my heart goes out to you as you grapple with this decision. Your mother's insistence on proceeding with the proposal despite your objections speaks volumes about the complexities of familial dynamics. It's evident that she's prioritizing her own desires over your wishes, which must be incredibly frustrating and hurtful for you. In light of this, your proposal to allocate the wedding funds to a childhood cancer fund reflects a selfless and compassionate gesture, highlighting your commitment to making a positive impact in the face of adversity. The exchange with your future brother-in-law, characterized by accusations of jealousy and bitterness, is undoubtedly hurtful and unjust. However, your decision to prioritize your emotional well-being by blocking him demonstrates strength and resilience in the face of adversity. It's regrettable that familial relationships have reached such a strained juncture, but sometimes, setting boundaries becomes necessary for self-preservation. Your plan to host a smaller, more intimate wedding with 20 guests at your grandparents-in-law's is both elegant and heartfelt. It underscores your desire to create a meaningful and authentic celebration that reflects your values and priorities. We've successfully extended our honeymoon trip to 3 weeks instead of 2. Our departure is set for the morning after the wedding. My mom's already covered the expenses for her wedding party, and there's no chance of a refund with such short notice only 3 weeks before the big day. It seems like the timing was intentional, catching me off guard. At this point, there's not much I can do. They'll only find out a week ahead when they see the wedding photos on social media. Perhaps they'll just turn the event into an engagement party and have a great time. It's a win-win situation, I suppose. Have you considered turning it into a destination wedding without involving your family? Imagine the surprise when they find out you tied the knot in some fantastic location without their knowledge. Picture a beach ceremony, with you in a white sundress and your bridesmaids in tropical flower-adorned dresses. If your parents bought your wedding dress, returning it might send a powerful message. Opt for something more casual, showcasing your independence from their manipulation. I understand a destination wedding might be out of reach with such short notice, but it's tempting to envision it as the ultimate revenge. As for my dress, it's a gift from my mother-in-law, a simple yet stunning piece. While it may not be extravagant, its beauty speaks volumes. Regarding the current situation, I'm getting married this Saturday. I've chosen not to inform my family, and I don't intend to. The last time I spoke to my parents was 5 days ago, when I declined attending the party they're hosting. I suggested turning it into an engagement celebration instead, but my mom dismissed my suggestion as ungratefulness. Despite repeating my decision, she remains unconvinced. 2 days ago, I conveyed the same message to my sister. Initially, my sister's reaction to the news was one of shock, but as our conversation progressed, she essentially urged me to accept the situation. However, when I firmly declined, expressing my reasons, she voiced her disappointment, questioning my tendency to complicate things. This exchange left me disheartened. I had hoped for her support. Nevertheless, I felt compelled to confide in her about the cancellation of my wedding plans. It was important to me that she understood my decision. Conversely, my mother and future brother-in-law reacted with anger upon learning that their meticulously planned surprise had been foiled. Their frustration with me simmered, fueling their disappointment. Despite their ire, I stood firm in my resolve, believing that honesty with my sister was paramount. Had she sided with me, I would have gladly divulged my intentions to proceed with the wedding on Saturday. Unfortunately, Her alignment with our mother and her boyfriend dashed any hopes of solidarity. Their collective disbelief in my rationale for canceling the wedding only served to deepen the divide between us. Consequently, I have chosen to distance myself from them, refraining from further communication. I anticipate that they will eventually reach out, assuming that my resolve to cancel the extravagant affair will falter. However, I remain steadfast in my decision. I hope that they come to realize the sincerity of my actions before I embark on my honeymoon. During my time away, I plan to disconnect from the distractions of technology, ensuring that my focus remains on cherishing moments with my newly declared husband. However, my eagerness to witness my family's response to my elopement a week earlier than planned turned out to be disheartening. I want to emphasize that I made sincere efforts to negotiate and find common ground with my family. I tried to express how deeply this situation was affecting me. It's important to note that I harbor no ill feelings towards my sister or her engagement. The crux of the matter lay in the fact that my wishes and opinions were completely disregarded regarding what was supposed to be my special day. That's where I drew the line. When I informed my mother that I wouldn't be attending the party she'd arranged and suggested it be turned into an engagement celebration instead, she became visibly upset. She insisted that the engagement was meant to be a surprise. However, I felt it was only fair to give her a heads up considering the significant financial loss she was facing. Yet, she didn't take my concerns seriously, brushing them off as trivial. Little did she know, I had already made plans to marry a week earlier, at my grandparents-in-law's place, surrounded by our closest friends. I deeply appreciated the efforts they made to accommodate the change. The most challenging part was informing my sister about the change in plans. Despite the risk of spoiling her surprise, I felt it was necessary. Her reaction was mixed. While she was displeased with my mother for her handling of the situation, she was more upset about the disruption to her plans. She seemed to believe I should have simply gone along with it. I chose not to disclose the new wedding date to her, as I wanted to preserve the magic of the day. Despite the absence of some loved ones, our wedding was nothing short of enchanting. My husband's unwavering support filled me with gratitude and joy. He vowed to spend the rest of his life ensuring my happiness and healing the wounds of my past. To our surprise, my in-laws upgraded our honeymoon to a luxurious 5-star hotel. We were surrounded by dear friends and some cousins, including my favorite aunt. We requested that no one share photos on social media until after we left for our honeymoon and to refrain from engaging in online conflicts with my family. However, today, my mother took to social media, airing grievances about me and my husband, labeling me as ungrateful and disrespectful. She even demanded compensation for what she deemed a significant financial loss. This public condemnation garnered considerable attention, with many extended family members siding against me. Despite this, my mother never attempted to reach out to me directly. Instead, she and my father announced their decision to sever ties, citing the expectation of compensation. Even my future brother-in-law joined in, commenting on the post. I discovered that my sister had taken to social media to vent about jealous individuals and haters, a clear jab directed at me. Surprisingly, none of our invited guests engaged with her post, perhaps indicating their respect for our privacy. Now, I'm left wondering whether my family will proceed with repurposing the wedding funds for an engagement celebration. Personally, I hope they opt for this to prevent wasteful spending. In response to the numerous requests for an update, I offer my apologies for the lengthy narrative. However, I trust it provides the desired insight into recent events. Before moving on to the final update, let's delve into a few more comments. Your mother's attempt to overshadow your wedding with your sister's engagement is utterly ludicrous. Congratulations on your marriage and newfound serenity. Let your sister shoulder the financial burden of her extravagant engagement celebration. Kudos to you. It's heartening to see this update. Perhaps consider sharing your story on Facebook before disconnecting. While they may not lend an ear, at least the truth will be out there. Don't squander your energy on them. Quietly move forward and leave them in the rearview mirror. Now, onto the concluding update. Indeed, my family proceeded with transforming the wedding into an engagement soiree and inundated social media with photos and posts extolling the enchanting evening. Notably, only a fraction of the invited guests, roughly 30 to 40%, attended. Consequently, any potential legal action against me for the wedding expenses is nullified. All's well that ends well. Turning to the tale of Imadi Hall canceling the Airbnb reservation, the scenario unfolded thus. I had reserved the Airbnb retreat for myself, my husband, my sister-in-law, and her spouse approximately 4 months prior. Despite my unequivocal stance that the Airbnb did not welcome pets, my sister-in-law insisted on bringing her dog along, regardless of the rules or potential additional costs involved. She assured me she would arrange for a dog sitter, and I saw no reason to doubt her. The Airbnb rental was located out of state, approximately 15 hours away, nestled on a picturesque beach in Tampa. My husband and I flew down, while my sister-in-law insisted on driving, departing roughly 24 hours before our flight. According to her, driving was more cost-effective than flying. Upon our arrival, we found my sister-in-law and her husband already waiting in the driveway. As soon as she spotted me, she inquired about the keys, which we had obtained from the owner en route. In a rush, she urged me to hand them over quickly so she could sneak her dog, Brutes, inside without being seen. I was utterly dumbfounded and halted in my tracks, incredulous at her audacity. She attempted to justify her actions, citing difficulty finding a pet sitter and Brute's health issues. Dismissing the Airbnb's no pets policy, she insisted she was in the right. Frustrated and bewildered, my husband remained silent, while I retreated to our rental car and drove away. I promptly secured a refund from Airbnb and returned the keys to the owner, explaining the situation. Though she offered to let us stay, I declined, feeling the space was too large for just my husband and me. Instead, we opted for a significantly more affordable hotel, costing us a fraction of what we had paid for the Airbnb. Throughout this ordeal, my sister-in-law bombarded us with messages claiming she couldn't afford to remain in Tampa. Despite our substantial financial differences, my husband and I had agreed to cover all expenses. Yet, she complained of not bringing snacks and bemoaned the high cost of goods in the area. I chose to ignore her messages, feeling deeply resentful that she had attempted to sabotage a trip I had fully funded. Now, my mother-in-law is pressuring us, likely influenced by my sister-in-law's version of events. The least we could have done was offer them some money for food instead of leaving them stranded. However, I remained resolute in my decision and firmly declined, suggesting that they simply return home to procure food. As for the comments, if someone can't find a dog sitter, they should stay home. Similarly, if someone can't afford snacks or food, they have no excuse for going on vacation. Who embarks on a road trip without packing snacks? It seems like the sister-in-law's account doesn't quite add up. They likely consumed the snacks and are now attempting to elicit sympathy funds. She essentially sabotaged her own plans by disregarding the explicitly stated rules. She departed a day ahead of us, providing ample time to discuss the possibility of bringing the dog along. It appears that she never seriously considered leaving the pet behind. It's evident that she left early specifically to bring the dog, fully aware that it was against the rules. By failing to disclose this beforehand, she attempted to circumvent the regulations.